Oh, hey guys. Jason Moreno here, part of Mindset U. It's episode 75. And this podcast is pretty much the guys just getting up on me and saying that I'm too much of a diplomat. Sitting next to me, we have Robo Rances. And to the bottom of me, we have Moody Mo, aka I think the new nickname is gonna be King Mo now. I don't know why. King Mo.
I like it.
You know what it is, because I know you do. For me, it's more condescending than it is like, oh, King Mo. So that, but I know that it
I'm good with it.
I know.
I think the whole vibe with the chair and everything adds to it today.
It really does. He's like a little regal king right now.
So spinning the wheel of life, we landed on relationships, and we're gonna see how Jay deals with conflict in relationships.
So the question I ask is, do you feel that this podcast is actually yours? Like, do you feel like you own it, that you're part of the creation of it?
I feel like I'm part of the creation of it when it comes to being on the actual podcast. I don't feel like when it comes to like the general direction of the show, I guess, because it's more about mindset, so it's more about you guys coaching. So just in the fact of that, like I don't feel like it's my show because it's our show. It's a group thing. But I do feel like I have help in the creative process and stuff like that. And because the L10 meetings, it's all of us. You know, I get to have an input in half the things. Now, is it a question of, do I choose to try and steer the ship? No, I want it, I let you guys steer the ship because I feel like it's your baby that I'm a part of.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this then. What aspect do you feel ownership in?
This, like when we're all talking, like the outcome of the episode, I'm like, oh, this is where I get to play, kind of thing,
Why?
So
as like the act, like the talent.
Just like, the talent aspect of it, just like this is like where I get to have fun, and this is where I get to help. This is where I really help the podcast out, I guess, in a general sense of the flow and how the episodes go. I think that's where I think I have the most control.
Okay.
So if this podcast blew up to or when it blows up to 2 million subscribers and we're generating, let's say 800,000 in revenue, you don't feel that it's a 33.3% ownership in that?
That's what I just said. I just said I think it's a group thing. Whatever you can't.
But you said it's not your baby. It's like our baby. So like I'm trying to get an understanding of what that looks like.
I came onto this podcast. I didn't create the podcast.
So then technically, would you get 33.3? Do you feel that you
I would feel like
33.3%, an equal part in the podcast?
I don't know if I feel like I deserve a full 33%, but I feel like I deserve a portion of it for the contribution that I do to the show.
You think you deserve something?
He asked the word, do I think I deserve something? I'm just using.
You can also argue that you deserve more if you wanted to. You could be like,
but I don't think I deserve more. I just think of it in a group setting of it being like I get to talk to my two close friends every week. Now leading up to it, sometimes I'm like, oh, do I have to fucking do this kind of thing? But I think that goes for everybody because we all have fucking lives and stuff like that. But I do think, this is our podcast. I think it's all three of ours, But when I say, I think I'm the really fun uncle.
That's what I was about to say. You're like the nanny. I'm that reference of child.
Yeah, I'm the fun uncle to this couple right here. But it takes all three of us to work. So I guess in that aspect, if the podcast was to ever, when the podcast takes off, I just figured it would be split three ways because it's ours. We all put in work, and I don't go into like, oh well, I do the editing, I do this and this, I deserve more in that aspect. It's ours. Just fucking split it down the middle, and fucking nobody bitches. Make it as fair as possible.
So then, wouldn't that mean that it's your baby?
I don't claim any babies. I'm the fun uncle.
I think this is like a trauma related thing where he's like, no, it's not mine.
It's not my kid.
It's kind of like, I think about it when Jay was like young and he was dating. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're my girlfriend, but not really. You know,
There's lifelong lack of commitment, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I
he's
don't
like,
like putting
yeah, I
labels.
love you, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm a man.
Yeah, no, it's ours, but I just don't. I guess the only reason why I don't call it my child is because you guys started the podcast before I got on board. So it's
I got something to
technically,
say about that.
yeah,
So yeah, we were recording
yeah,
podcasts before, right? And there's been quite a few variations of it, right?
Mhm.
Moses, Dreamer's Journey,
yeah,
literally this channel, and then it evolved into Mindset U. But before that, there was the Project podcast, which was Moses and I, and we were bringing people on and stuff. So there's like, yeah, there's been experience here, but with this, the dynamic that with the three of us, I feel like it became its own new thing. It started its own new direction. So it's almost like the birth of a new thing. So I disagree with you.
Are you saying I am the daddy?
You are the father.
Am I your? You know what? Then fine, I accept it. I'm the daddy. I'm part daddy. I got daddy in me, I guess. No, if that's the aspect, then yes, then I'm the father in this new endeavor that we're doing. Yes, I'm part sperm donor to this fucking child.
So I have a question with that. Now that you've said that, right? Before you said the direction, like that's a part where you feel like it's not your place.
Yeah.
But if there's something being said or talked about where you're like, this is not the direction that I signed up for or that I believe we should go.
Yeah.
Would you verbalize yourself? Would you like fight for that?
If there's something I'm like, all right, I don't think that's stupid. Every time we have an L10 meet, if I don't agree with something, I'll not agree with it. And I'll explain why. Now, whether or not we go with it, that's where I'm like, whatever you guys want to do, because I don't like arguing about that shit. Just if you want to try it, let's try it. I don't fucking care. But that's just how I go towards life.
Mo, you got it?
I don't like Mo just staring at me.
I know.
It's very uncomfortable.
I stayed quiet because it seemed like he had a thought brewing.
I was like, I have yet to hear Jay disagree with anything. And when he does disagree, it's this kind of passive disagreement where it's just like, I don't know. I don't really think that. And then he tries to find this medium that serves all parties.
It's called being a
like
Libra.
He's super democratic.
I balance shit. That's it. That's my job in life. That was my job as a child with my parents.
I was gonna say
balance everything out.
I was gonna say Jay almost acts like a adult child of divorce.
Yeah,
but he's not.
He's trying to. And sometimes I feel like, and I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. It's just based off the interactions that we all have with each other on the L10.
Yeah.
But when Jay does disagree with somebody, and then Rances pushes back, or I push back, right? What he does is almost, I feel that he and I don't know, Jay, there's not a criticism per se.
No, I don't care.
It's just, I'm just stating my observation.
Yeah.
It almost feels like he's trying to appease.
I just want
either one of us to make sure that everybody gets along.
Yeah. No, that's it. Because I'm like, guys, we're arguing over a podcast right now. Like, we'll just do whatever. We'll figure it out. It's fine. Because you guys get so passionate about shit that it's inspiring, and also it's very tiring after working out to just immediately watch you two fight sometimes. So I'm like, please just get along.
But we haven't fought in a while though.
No, but even when you guys disagree sometimes, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be 45 minutes. Because everybody's going to express their feelings in great fucking detail. And then it gets to the point that everybody's kind of saying the same thing, but differently. And then nobody was going to find a happy medium there. So I go, let's do a poll.
that kind of brings me to something, right? Because like going back to like, okay, you're part of this, you care
Mhm.
for it, right?
Yeah.
But then when you say the phrases of like, I don't care, we'll do whatever, right? You're literally saying I don't care. So what is it that you mean by that?
It's more so I just go with the flow. If you guys want to try something else, like how you say like adaptable, then yeah, I'll adapt to it. Whatever you guys are so passionate about, if you want to go in that direction, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, then we'll talk about it next week. And then the next person will come up with an idea. If we try that, can anybody?
You're just doing the same thing. The same thing we're talking about. It's like, what's the most political answer I can give you guys?
It's not a political answer. It's not that I don't
all those
care.
years in news.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's not that I don't care. It's the fact that you guys are so passionate to argue about it for the entire fucking meeting that I just try to find a fucking happy medium so we can have some sort of resolution.
But we will get to a resolution.
Sometimes, yeah.
That's a good point because I think that speaks to the fundamental way that we view conflict, right?
Mhm.
Moses and I. So then I think that's a good direction to go with you in terms of, because you want the conflict to stop. So
yeah.
Do you have a thing against?
I want peace.
Yeah. Have you met my parents?
I mean, they are. Your dad is pretty chill.
No, they're both very chill people, but I come from like a lady who's like a super businesswoman who's a mental assassin. And growing up, I think when I was younger, I was a lot more argumentative, and I was like, I would die on hills and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And the older I got, I was like, why? This is just stressing me out. So I just went the complete opposite route. Because I used to be a lot like my mom, where it's just like you beat it and you fucking beat your point in and you fucking dig your heels into the ground kind of thing. And we both kind of made this like switch throughout the years as we got older of being like, whoa, let's just go with the flow kind of thing. So I think that's where that comes from.
I think a little bit of both needs to exist.
Yeah, with certain things I fight for. It's just that when it comes to the podcast, it's so new that it's just like, let's try everything. So it's hard for me to.
Is that why you took up boxing, so that you can actually physically fight? Having to argue.
I have complete. Yeah, it's just like there's no need to argue. We settle it this way. Yeah, I think that's a really good. Yeah, it just went. There's no talking. Let's just handle it, and that's how it's settled, kind of thing.
So I want to just frame this out for you in terms of like, at least my perspective. I think it's Moses' perspective as well, but you let me know. When you say like, oh, we're so passionate about something, it's like, yeah, we have a point of view that we want to have heard, and when it comes to like us arguing about it, there's one key element where you talked about like your mom or you just like die on a hill type of thing. But with the way that we try to approach it is always being hyper aware of the ego, where it's like, I'm not trying to win this argument for the sake of winning my ego. I'm trying to have my point be understood. And if you say something that you recognize that you understand it and you're like, yes, but this is a thing that you haven't considered. And I'm like, oh shit, I haven't considered that. Okay, I'll put my argument down. No problem. It's not for the sake of winning,
I know it's not for the sake of winning. I don't think that it's like, oh, you guys are just trying to measure each other's dicks. And I'm like, put them away. It's just that I just feel like if we're going to have an L10 meeting, that if we're going to argue about something, it's like, all right, if you're saying one thing and the other person doesn't agree, how do we find that ground that we can go, okay, this is where we're going to go right here kind of thing. I don't go into like life with being like, oh, if somebody's going to argue with me, I'll just fucking tuck my tail kind of thing. But if it comes to getting something done, like a project, like how I look at this, I think it does come down from working in news, because you do have people with, such ideas of what to do. And it's like we can't do it all one way. We can't do all the other. We got to find this middle ground, and let's just fucking get it done. So I think that's where it comes from too. But I don't look at like actual conflict. Like if we were arguing about like, oh, Rances, I feel like you did something wrong to me, and then you're like, no, I didn't say that kind of thing. I wouldn't like tuck my tail, if that makes, you know what I mean? Like I don't look at it like that. I just look, if we have a task, sure, everybody could feel a certain way about it, but we still have to get this fucking done. So let's find a way. Let's just, all right. So you want to do it this way? You want to do it this way? How about we do it like this? That way we both can see, you know, what kind of works, and we all have a contribution into it.
So there's a few things there that you said where if we're having a back and forth, and like you said, I said something to you, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to tuck your tail. But with that, the reason why you wouldn't tuck your tail is because you're defending something, which is, in this case, would be you. You're defending you, and you're not going to take it like someone tarnishing your name.
It's not tarnishing my name, but I'm saying like, not like if you said something to me, it's more like if we have like an actual disagreement about something, and I genuinely feel like, okay, I can't do that kind of thing, then I'll express it, and I'll stick up for myself in that aspect. I won't just be like, oh, okay, well, if that's gonna make Rances not angry, then I'll just do it like that. No, that's not the case. It's just that there hasn't been anything so pressing in doing this podcast that's like, I can never.
But that's kind of fundamentally the point there, because it's like the care for like the outcome, I believe, should be strong enough where you're willing to fight for things.
Yeah, but it's all so new that we're still figuring this out, that it's like I'm open to everything. Like, why not try it? And if it doesn't work, we're gonna do one next week. Let's do it different then. And that's what we've been doing. So that's how I look at it. It's all an experiment. So, and it's not that I don't care about it. It's just that we're gonna do another one, and we're gonna keep doing them until we find the right way to do it. So I'm open to all suggestions.
Can we do a little graphic right now that starts playing the presidential music behind them and the podium comes up?
I'm sorry for the one thing that I'm diplomatic about in my life. You guys are attacking me for.
It's a Democrat.
So go ahead, Mo.
No, I was gonna say, I bet you love Bernie Sanders.
I don't like anybody. I don't like government. I think they're all trying to sell me something, and I don't like it.
I could love Sanders.
So Jay, with the question of like, from the things that you care about, what values do you have like that align with what we do here? Like, what is it about this project that you want to be a part of?
Well, for starters, I love you guys. 2, it gives me a reason to connect with 2 people that I'm very close with. And I just like having fun. And if I get to talk shit a little bit and make you guys laugh, that's fun to me. That's legit half the reason. It goes back to, I guess, a confidence episode, that knowing that I can make you guys laugh, it's fun to me. So I'm like, oh, this is fun. I get to just be silly goose time. So that's what it means a lot to me. It's just, it's good for me. It's also like a form of weird therapy sometimes, because, you know, I don't, it's my cheap therapy. I get paid to do therapy. So I just get to talk to my guys, and it's fun. That's just how I look at it.
So what do you think of this, Jay? We have, let's say there's 2 people arguing, right? And let's make it direct. They're engineers, right? And they're trying to understand how to make something more aerodynamic. That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
One is arguing that a rounded tip of the airplane is going to make it more. One is arguing that a pointed tip of it. And they're going back and forth. for you, it's about finding the middle ground, or is it about finding what's the actual information that decides which one is the direction to go with?
Well, I mean, with that, there's some pretty dire consequences of if it doesn't work, somebody's fucked, kind of thing. So with when it comes to a life or death situation, where if this decision dictates whether this plane is gonna fucking crash or not, am I getting diplomatic again? It always depends. It always depends on the situation, though. I don't know how else to describe it.
Life is all a bunch of gray, not black and white.
Yeah, it's just it's all gray, and it depends on the situation of it. So if those guys, if I guess the bottom line is finding the right answer is always the thing, but of how you get to that answer, you have to find a middle ground. That's just how I feel. You have to figure out, okay, what can we all agree on to make this work, and then we test that out, and if that works, yay.
But the way you feel is wrong, Jay.
The way I feel is wrong? Okay, that's how you feel. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Try to see if I could get a reaction.
Jay to fight back.
Yeah. This guy got his hardcore president's hat.
This guy maneuvers conversations like he does
in the boxing ring.
In the boxing ring, like shifts and moves through every single punch. He's like, you can't touch me, bro.
All right. Well, Mo fixes this. I have another question that goes along with that point, which is like, all right, so like you like to crack jokes, right? You like to point out things that it's like how stupid can you be type of thing, right? So is that how you deal with like that, like not being diplomatic? Okay, I'm diplomatic when I'm serious, but when I'm not serious, I don't really mean this, so I'll crack it as a joke. I don't really mean this, but I kind of do. And then I can be
depends.
diplomatic.
It depends. It's like the counterbalance to it, where it's just like, okay, look, I'll be the great mediator here, but I'm gonna talk shit along the way. Yeah,
it's like I feel like you always use that. It's like, no, I'm joking. It's not serious. I'm not
well,
being
sometimes,
serious.
but but you know what it is, the way I cut back, I guess, like it's like if I'm being like real sarcastic. If I'm being like super sarcastic and like blowing you off kind of thing, that's how that's like, oh, like, okay, you pissed Jay off kind of thing. But if I'm gonna crack jokes, I don't. It's just it might be getting there.
Yeah.
But that's also like the diffuser. It's like, all right, are we gonna joke? Are we gonna joke? Or are you gonna get serious? And now I get to like be a cunt kind of thing.
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of like what we talked about in the one episode with Paola, where you were talking about like how you share that, like you need time to cool off before you can come back to the argument. Where you kind of say that, like, if you start getting real sarcastic, it's like, all right, now you're just, getting petty in a sense.
Exactly.
So like, this is my point of view with when you're in an argument. It's not about it's not about finding the happy medium. It's about creating a win-win where, how you summarize.
Wait, but time out. Isn't a happy medium a win-win?
Not necessarily.
That's why
we can talk about that. Yeah, because for me, a happy medium, reason I say not necessarily, for me, a happy medium kind of means like both parties had to give in a certain way to find a medium that we can both somewhat agree with, but neither of us are like, yes, To me, a win-win is like we're both like, yes, because that goes fundamental in the way I view the conflict. Whereas like I'm gonna go into the conflict till we're both like, yes, we're both aligned and we're gonna drive the direction of, let's say, the podcast heavy because we both believe in it.
I hear you.
When that doesn't happen, then someone's kind of dragging along and just doing it because they lost the argument, as opposed to they believe in this direction.
No, that's understandable. I could see that. I just find that process can be super fucking emotionally exhausting for me. And I think that's why I kind of don't steer in that direction so much, because that just takes a lot out of me emotionally, I guess. And I don't know why it does. It probably goes back to the only child thing of like always being like the diplomat, I guess. But yeah, I used to try and that was my route for a long time in my like early 20s and earlier relationships and stuff like that. And I didn't enjoy it a lot, I guess, in that process of it. So it made me kind of steer ship another way.
Gotcha.
But I get that though. Yeah. No, and for a lot of it, I used to do that, but God, that fucking exhausts me. Like,
I think it's exhausting if you feel like you're driving blind. And I could be wrong about this, but it's like if you have like a format of the way that you discuss and argue, I think it's like, oh, okay, we're just, you realize I'm at this hurdle right now. Then after this comes this speed bump, and then comes this, and then comes a resolution. Like you kind of have that view. But if you're like, feel like you're driving blind, it's like, what the hell? This is just emotional for no reason.
Have you met me? Don't you know that I love driving blind? Like, that's my thing. It's so yes, I am. Yes, that's exactly the reason why I didn't enjoy it, because this guy likes to close his eyes and hit that steering wheel a little bit and see where it goes.
Mo, how about you? Because you kind of came from that side to this side.
I did live in both worlds. I think now it's more about, I've gotten really good at questioning people to understand their logic. So I don't find myself in a lot of arguments. The only person I really argue with is Rances, right? It's the only one that, and even that has really kind of died down in the past year.
So who's the problem here? It sounds like it's fucking this guy over. Wait, this guy. Wait.
No, the other side.
Whatever direction it's in, that motherfucker. It's him.
Well,
I don't know.
No, point to the other direction, Jay.
It's the other direction.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. That's the weed. You see, do you want me steering ships? I can't. Just let me do my thing. Just let me shine, baby. That's what I'm here for.
So, Jay, no, that's a great point, because I am the problem when it comes to creating conflict, because I believe in conflict so heavily.
I know.
Yeah.
It's evident.
And even when Rances argues, it's like we're saying the same thing, but in different ways. And it's like, no, you're not understanding me. And
hence why I become the diplomat. And that's just my job, because my mom was pretty much just like that. Where it's like, I'm agreeing with you and you're still fighting me. What's happening here? Like,
but what I've come to notice is that, like, it's, well, when it comes to Rances, arguing with him does make you better at confrontation and conflict.
Yeah.
It does help you get better in that space. So it's like that whole concept of you don't rise to the occasion, you fall back to your training. I mean, like, if you train with Rances, like, you are going to get better at having these conversations and being able to navigate conflict. But I think now my approach has been very similar to the kind of framework that Rances and I developed for thinking about anything, any experience, is trying to be curious about what someone else is feeling or what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And that has helped me understand, like, what questions can I ask to make this person or understand this person's logic. So at one point in my life, I was very passive. I would avoid confrontation, and I would just bury feelings down, which didn't help, because then I would just blow up and cry all the time and shit. And then I went the opposite direction. I became a complete asshole, and I was just very mean to everybody, which I think was part of the process. So I'm sorry to the VidaProject team that was at the center. I know I was a dick. And then now I'm kind of just in the middle.
Would you dare say you found a happy medium?
I found a happy medium. That's where I kind of agree with Jay sometimes, and I kind of agree with I feel like Jay's like too passive sometimes. I feel like Rances is too anal.
Yeah.
And then
I think that's a very good happy medium, and I think that is true. Sometimes I can be too passive. Other times, God damn it. That guy over there. That guy
that's
over
why
there.
I think that's why the question of like, do you feel that this podcast is yours, is because that is something that Rances and I both recognized. Yeah. And the way that we've worked and the way that we've pushed the boundaries in terms of developing ourselves and developing whatever VidaProject is at this point is the ability to go into that space and challenge the ideas, challenge the perspectives of those things. Fair. And I think that's why I was like, well, maybe it doesn't feel like it's his. I was like, that's a really good question to find out. It's like, does he feel that this podcast is his?
I just don't fully subscribe to your guys' little mythology of that process. That's just at this point in my life. You know, I hear you guys and it works for you guys. And it truly does. I guess that's the one area that I don't like being uncomfortable in when it comes to creating something. That's just, nail on the head, guys. You got it.
Well, I'm curious as to why. Like, why does it? Like, why are you uncomfortable in that space?
It's just because I hate arguing when there's a job to be done. And it's just like, all right, we can argue about it, and that's fine. I still got to fucking edit the podcast eventually. Like, we still have to come out with one. So it's like we could argue and bitch about it all we want. The work still has to get done. So I think that's where that comes from.
I mean, I can get that. Especially like the way we've been doing it, right? Because we've been like time crunching. It seems like for like half the year, just time crunching. Like, we got to get this episode done. So there's not like a lot of space of that pressure of like time. So that makes sense. The other thing of it that I think of, the counter to that, is like, if you're like the whole steering the ship, if you're in the ocean, right, and you're like, all right, we just got to get moving, and it's like, all right, we got to get moving. Our goal is to go to Europe, but the ship is facing north, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna go the wrong direction. So it's like, we can get started, but it's going to take us further from our goal than it is if we figure out where is it that we're supposed to go. So that's like where I come from. It's like, we need to have that belief of like, okay, we're going in the right direction. We need to be in there. So like when we argue, I feel like, all right, now everyone's, it's a formula to me. Is like when you're arguing, is like you said, you're passionate. Mm-hmm. You're passionate about what you want the outcome to be, right? So that's a form of care. And then when you have that care now, and you have to have the mindset, if you're curious enough to understand the other person also has the same intention. So you're curious enough to understand what is it about the information that they believe is going to take us to the right place. Mm-hmm. Now you end up finding that win-win is like, oh, okay, this is why this makes the whole sense, because we didn't realize there's a big island in the way. So we do have to go north to then go east to get to Europe.
You lost me like 2 minutes ago.
Can I say something about that? Because when Rances, when you were talking, what came up for me was, so for me, that's the CEO's job, right? Mm-hmm. So whoever is producing, whoever is leading the whole thing is the one that has to make those decisions. Yeah. And I think, at least what I observed yesterday, and kind of the approach that Rances took, that for me, it's easy to go into conflict with you and say, no, I don't disagree with that, because I see myself as like one that loves to lead in every aspect, even when it's not my job. So I think that can be very combative at times. But I think there has to be, I think, an approach, or the way that it's expressed in our meetings, at least, if there is a decision that you want to see come alive, and you're trying to gather data to consider whether we should go in that direction, I think the way that it's expressed should be more of a directive versus just a suggestion. Because, like, for example, I'm thinking about that conversation we had yesterday. To me, it was presented as a suggestion versus a directive. And I think that allows for too much space for someone like myself, who sees themselves as a leader, to argue that point. If that's something like, if you're steering the ship and you're saying we have to go this way because the tides are coming this way, and this is going to ruin our whatever we're doing, then you have to make that decision and deal with the consequences as a leader. And then that's where Jay and I kind of have to fall in place, even though we may or may not agree with it. And if we don't agree with it, we really have to voice our opinions and give you the data to prove you wrong. Right. And I think that kind of dynamic allows for Jay to actually be, or myself, or Jay more so, to be more like confrontational about the decisions you make.
I think that's a great point, because like what you mentioned, like the after effect. So there's a reason why I bring it in as a suggestion, because I want to be contested. I want to be, challenged, because to me it's like, all right, this is the direction we should go. If I get challenged in this and I can withstand the challenges and convince you guys to be on the same path as me, then okay, now we're fortified. If I demand we go in this direction and you guys don't agree with it, right? Now we're going to have resistance. We're going to have drag, anchor pulling us back in that sense.
But that's what allows the actual data from our perspectives to come out.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, if I don't agree with something, like I said, I come from news. If I don't agree with something, the job still has to get done. So it's not one of those things that's like, oh, if Rances wants to go in this direction, I don't agree with it, I'm not gonna pull my end. It's like, no, we still gotta make this shit fucking work, kind of thing. And so I agree with all that. And also, when it comes down to that, you're wearing blue, so this is fucking perfect. You're Leonardo, baby. You're the annoying leader guy. That's who you are. I'm Michelangelo. Moody Mo is fucking Raphael. And I don't know who Donatello is, because we don't have a good tech guy yet. But we're gonna get there. And that's just how it is. So yeah, I think it's one of those things, like, I don't think you need to, be like, oh, they're gonna drag their ass. Like, the job still has to fucking get done. So, and I look at you as the leader, you guys as the leader anyway, pretty much. But Rances, you're the one who's so anal about it. I'm like, this is Rances' baby, kind of thing. And I fall in line in that aspect, because you are the most passionate about this, and I love you for that.
So this is interesting you say about this, right?
Yeah.
And that's the part where I'm always like, well, not really, because you put me in anything, throw me in anything, and I'm gonna be the most passionate about. Like, literally, put me on a badminton team. I don't know nothing about, and I'm gonna be the one like, no, right? But it's more so that conflict thing, and to me, it's like the care about the people. That's the main concept, right? So like, it's like, when you care about like what you're doing, and the way I see myself is like, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. That really holds true for me.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm doing something, I'm gonna do it with all the passion, all the intention and direction that I can give it. Now, combine that with the perspective and the framework that we talked about in terms of conflict and all of that, and you have like this recipe, because it's simple to me. It's curiosity, right, leads to emotions. So when state a thing as a curiosity suggestion type of thing, as you mentioned, Mo, it leads to an emotional reaction, right? And that emotional reaction is going to lead to further understanding of what makes us tick as individuals, which builds further trust. Because when you see me and you understand, like, you start to understand like what drives me, you know me.
Yeah.
And therefore we trust each other more. And to me, is like, that's the formula. So the conflict to me is intentional to building a deeper connection. And when you build deeper connection, you're able to drive the ship faster, stronger.
Cool.
Did I lose you again, Jay?
Yes.
That goes off a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I saw Mo like playing with his mic.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, Leonardo, I hear you. Exhausting, but I hear you. For like the first 5 sentences, I heard you. And I think I knew where you were going because I'm good at context clues. So
Yeah, this is exactly what Moses does. He just reads the first 2 sentences of a email, and he's like, "Yeah, I get what they're saying."
yeah. But also, like, I don't. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I don't know anything you just said in that last thing. The more I try to think about it, the more lost I get. I'm just gonna say I hear you, buddy, and I love you, and I accept you for whatever it is that you just said.
Emotions leads to understanding, leads to trust.
Okay. Cool. Here's the recap, guys. I'm part baby daddy of this podcast. The guys think that I'm a little too passive sometimes, but it's just me being diplomat because we got to get shit done. Rances is very passionate, and he will drive his point in to your fucking heart repeatedly until you're hurt, until he's heard, and he'll do it by telling very long-winded, confusing stories so that you're just like, fine, bro, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. The wind flows, which goes into your emotions, and it centers your chi. And sure, yes, you got it. You got it, buddy. I'll put a rock on a rock on a rock and a feather on top of it and blow into the wind. And sure, you got it. I'm the chief of my own story. Yes. No, but all jokes aside, Rance is super passionate and he's anal about things. Mo can be the happy medium when he wants to be. Sometimes it's like, thank God Mo's here kind of thing, because he is the sound of reason between the two of us. Because if I'm always disagreeing with something because I just want to see how the podcast goes because I feel like it's brand new, Mo's there to kind of do a checks and balance because that's just who Mo is. And that's the relationship he has with Rances, where they like to combat each other. And I respect it, but I also find it to be emotionally taxing. And that's why I punch people. I don't have to argue. I just go, oh, hey, listen, you want to punch each other in the face and we just get it out this way? And they go, yeah. And that's what I do. And that's what's cathartic for me. But that's these guys' way of doing it. You could do it that way. You could do it my way. You could do it your own way. It doesn't matter. We're all going to die. Don't forget to listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can find a podcast. And don't forget to go to VidaProject.com. And you can find out where I make certain mistakes on things and Rances fixes them. It's a good time. Hang out. Listen,